Och så välkomnar vi Johanna.
Hello. English. I'm Johanna. I'm an alcoholic.
Hej Johanna.
Johanna alkoholist. I want to keep track of time because I can talk for hours. And I don't really have to speak slow to talk for hours. I find myself so interesting that I could just do it for a day. So, I'm an alcoholic. I'm also a drug addict of the worst kind, the kind that knew the medical books by heart. If you were on a medication, I could tell you the side effects of it and all the benefits of it if you took large amounts of it. I'm not going to talk about drugs because this is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's not a meeting for drug addicts, or it's not a meeting about the solution for drug addicts. It's a meeting about the solution for alcoholism. But if I do touch on the subject of drugs and that offends you, then you are welcome to call your sponsor tonight. I'm also an adult child. Yeah, got like lost 2 minutes, Pat. It took you about 10 minutes. It's perfect. It's quite awful to be like the speaker after Pat because he's such like genius when it comes to speaking and talking. I mean, you're an artist, really. This is why we need you. I think AA needs good speakers. Because when I was new, I couldn't say a word. And when people tried to approach me, I would look at them once and they would back off. Everyone was scared of me, or just like afraid of trying to approach me. I was angry, I was bitter, I hated you and you and you. I just hated everyone, and I hated myself more than any one of you together. I sat in the back of the meeting. I was one of those that came in late, 5 minutes late, and I thought I was sneaking in. Well, I was like dragging the chairs that made sounds, and it was mortifying. I thought everyone heard me coming into the room. Now they're all looking at me and the stains on my pants and the shame in my soul and the sadness I feel. And I sat in the back and then I ran out before the meeting was over because I didn't want to talk to you because you all were crazy. So that's not me today. I try to talk to as many people as I can, and I try to make sure that the person that takes up the least room in the meeting gets some attention before I go. I want people to feel validated when they come to AA. I want people to feel loved when they come to AA. It would be a failure if people walk out from an AA meeting feeling unloved and unseen and not validated. Are you following me? Good. That doesn't mean I'm going to hug all of you, because I'm not into hugs. It just means that I want everyone in here to know that if you feel lonely and if you don't feel seen, you can have my phone number and call me anytime. I'm sure there's a lot of people here who would be willing to give you their phone number so you can call them and just talk. You don't have to have questions. Because sometimes asking questions in AA can be the hardest thing, because you want to ask the right questions, right? You want to be smart from the day one. I know I was like that. I wanted to come into AA and I wanted to get it right away. And I wanted to ask like really, really good intellectual and deep questions to make my other group members go, that was a really good question, Johanna. We have never thought of that ever. So, my background. I come from a city called Gothenburg on the west coast. I was born into a very alcohol-drenched family, which also makes me an adult child of alcoholics. I'm not going to talk too much about that either. But I was born into a very alcohol-drenched, very dysfunctional, very, very sick family. It's so sick I had them do a documentary about me on Swedish television at one point. My whole family stopped talking to me. I just felt very like it was in my right to talk about them. I lived in the suburbs, in, you know, kind of a poor neighborhood. My mother was a single parent, and I know she did everything she could. I know now, because I'm now a single parent myself. My father was one of those like colorful drunks, you know, singing man. He had 7 kids with 7 different women. Everyone thought he was charming. And this is when I first thought that male alcoholics get away with shit that I never get away with. Have I had 7 kids with 7 different men and left them all? Nobody would be talking to me, but he's colorful. It also gave me my first lesson in the tricky thing about having relationships. You can just imagine the kind of men I would go for when I first started going to AA. The sickest guy in the room. He was mine. I wanted him, and he wanted me. He just didn't know it yet. I started drinking very, very early. I was 11, and since I'm an alcoholic, from the first drink, I was an alcoholic before I had my first drink. It was just that alcohol activated my disease, my physical allergy. I didn't only have 1 beer. I had a small bottle of vodka, smoked a joint, and took a benzo for the first time in my life. In like 4 hours, it was amazing. I'm pretty sure I had sex too. I just can't remember anything of the night, but I'm pretty sure I had sex too. That was kind of like, you know, me sliding in with a bang into the life as an active alcoholic. I mean, I set the bar pretty high or low, depending on how you see it. And it wasn't like I immediately started drinking every weekend, because nobody can do that if you're 11, not even in my family. I had to go to school. Even they had to like drag me, they're kicking and screaming sometimes, but I had to go to school. And school was just an awful, awful place for me, because I felt like an alien. I was 11, and the movie E.T. had just had an opening, and I could identify with him. And I've actually heard this in other shares. So I have like a whole family of international AAs that all identify with E.T. And I kid you not, we have a Facebook group. I kid you not. And I just really just like knew that there was something different about me. There was something in me that didn't happen to all of you. I would constantly compare my insides to your outside. People would look like they were put together, that my classmates did their homework, and they went home and had dinner with their families, like, and they all like had a mom and dad, and it was all so pretty and romantic and nice, and I fucking hated it, because it would never like that for me. It wasn't like that for me when I went home, and it never felt like that. So, important point. This is not why I'm an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic because my parents mistreated me, or because my father drank himself to death. But if you take all of that dysfunction that I came from, and then you pour alcohol over it, I was a disaster. It was mass destruction. It was just like asking for troubles. So no, I was not only an alcoholic, but I was also a person who had no references about how to be an even slightly decent person. I was angry, and I was going to get back at you. All of you. So, I very quickly drank myself into destruction. I have lots of really colorful, interesting war stories you can imagine. I'm not going to tell all of them. I have some highlights, because they were highlighted in my step work. Because my sponsor felt we had to talk more about this. I have a connection to Denmark, like most Swedish drunks do. I woke up in Christiania, I was 13, and I had built myself a house from a shopping trolley. I was lying under it, it was this big, and I reclaimed that area. This is mine, and I lived there, and this woman who lived there, she was like 35, she came like, kid, I don't think you should be here. Like, where do you even come from? And they had to call the police, and I mean, that doesn't really happen to normal people, whatever that is. I've also had some interesting meetings with the medical profession, doctors, nurses, getting restrained for days because I was apparently suicidal just because I was lying down on the train track. What? And I was angry at everyone who tried to help me. I think it takes an alcoholic to sit in front of a group of doctors and nurses and they tell you that you're going to die, but they can help you, and you get pissed at them. I get pissed at them because they reminded me of the thing that I could not do anything about. All I wanted to do was to leave and go drinking again, so I learned to lie and manipulate. Alcoholics are the best liars in the world. I was a master at talking people into agreeing with me. I have to drink, act like an asshole, lie to everyone I know and love, betray my kids, my partners, because I'm in pain. And they believed me. Nobody would try and convince me otherwise, because I was so good at manipulating people. I had these numbers I would do when I was drinking at a bar to get people to buy me drinks. I would get people to cry because they felt so sorry for me. No sense of being responsible, absolutely none. So I went to my first AA meeting when I was 18, and this was far up in the north. We're talking north of Polar Circle north. And I went into this meeting, and I was 18, and I had a baby on my hip, my oldest son, who's now 22. And I was scared, of course, but I was mostly just tough. And I had a cap down to here, and baggy jeans, and I was trying to hide, but I was carrying a baby. It was pretty obvious that there was something different. And I was the only woman in AA up there for a very long time, and I was definitely the only young person. And they were scared shitless of me. I got a welcome there that would, I think, decide the rest of my life. They welcomed me in a way that I had never been welcomed. I mean, people would roll their eyes when I came into the... People still do that, to be honest. I have that effect on people. They're like, oh, Johanna, oh. But these guys, I could tell they were kind of nervous that I came in there, 18 years old. And you could smoke in the meetings back then. I demanded everyone to put their cigarettes out because I had my baby with me. And I would sit for half the meeting, and then I would run out. And I would go drinking again. And I had a 2-month-old baby, and nothing could stop me from drinking. Nothing. I hear people say that, well, if I have a baby, it's not going to stop you. It's not going to stop you. I had to fight to not drink during my whole pregnancy. I couldn't wait to get that baby out of me so I could have my first drink. And I did about 2 weeks after I had him. I would have to try and squeeze that breast milk out of me fast enough so I could, give him food. That's how sick I was, and that's how sick you get. There's nothing that could stop me from getting what I thought that I needed, and that was the next drink. No partner, no child, no love, no nothing. So, I was in and out for 10 years, and I started to get some pieces of my life back together. I felt a lot of shame still, because I think there is a difference between being a male drinker and a female drinker. There's some shame about being dirty and smelling of piss, but it's extra shameful if you're a woman because you're supposed to be pretty and not smell of piss, preferably. I have that as my first criteria when I date people. They cannot smell of piss. So I had a few years of sobriety during those years, but I didn't do any step work. It was simply because nobody ever introduced me to the idea to do step work. I mean, I come from a place where that is unheard of. My home group is the International English-speaking group in Stockholm, and you don't walk out of there without having a phone number and a big book in your hand that we provide for you. But I come from a AA where step work was something that the Americans did. And it wasn't really introduced to me, the thing about having a sponsor or nothing. I mean, there were no women that could sponsor me up north. So when I once again gave up because I was mortified and full of shame and pain, and there was nothing else I could do but drink, and I went back to AA in June 15, 2003, so ready to do something different. And there was a woman in the room. And I stuck like glue to that woman. And she was a year sober, and she was crazier than me, which is hard, because I was crazy. And she would go to meetings together, and she wasn't working, so she came to my house like 3 or 4 times a week, and we'd just sit there and chain smoke and talk about how miserable we were. But I just knew that I had to do something. And I've seen the steps on the walls. I've seen them. And there was a convention up north, where it's the oldest convention in Sweden. It's been around for a very long time, up in Älvsbyn. Nobody has ever heard of it. But it's a very old convention. And I went up to that, and there was another woman there. And she went up and she shared about step 6 and 7, and in a language that I couldn't understand, because it was like a language of recovery. It was a language of the heart. I mean, she spoke about herself, and she had the same past as I did. She told my story, and I hadn't heard that much in the rooms, because everyone was so fucking successful. They were so clean and put together, and I was like, and I was totally like judging you, like you just lost your dignity. I lost everything. But she was telling my story, and she was also like talking about herself with love and dignity and value, and I'm something, and I'm taking up space, and I can do whatever I want, and my kids love me, and I have a partner, and I was like, wow, and she wasn't talking about how she looks, because a lot of, when you read like the bulletins in AA, it's like when she was drinking, she was ugly and smelly, and then she gets sober, she was pretty. And men are like less successful in business, but then when they get sober, they start making a lot of money. And I couldn't like identify with any of that, but this woman, there was just some light around her. So I asked her to sponsor me. I just didn't use that word. I said, could you please save my life, because I'm going to kill myself if I don't do anything. So she took me through the steps in 3 months, because we don't wait to go to the doctor when we're well. We do it now, because we want to get well. And step 1, 2, 3 was pretty easy. I mean, I had 12 years in AA. I knew I was fucked. There's no question about it. And everything I had tried, that could even resemble step 2, like going to therapy, getting a new partner, trying a new hobby. No, I didn't have any hobbies. I never had any hobbies. I had a lot of partners, though. Lots. It just, I couldn't find anything that was big enough to keep me sober. Well, if I had a partner that was drinking more than me for a while, that would keep me a bit sober. Nothing like a bigger loser than yourself to keep you sane for a bit. But it just wasn't working, because as soon as they dumped me, because I never dumped them, because there's claw marks on all my ex-partners. They have to run. So I knew that I needed something else, and this woman had that. I mean, she was still crazy. I mean, we all are to some extent. But I just like, okay, God, whatever. Like, okay, we'll just go with God. I don't really know what that is, but it's not a fucking doorknob. I hear that sometimes. Like, seriously, people, how is a doorknob bigger than you? No, I needed something bigger than me. So bigger than me was obviously AA. And you guys. I'm just gonna see what time it is. Have I only spoken for 18 minutes? And I'm already in the solution. Isn't that lovely? The sponsor's going to be so proud of me. So, step 1, I'm screwed. I'm done. I'm fucked. I know I swear a lot. You can put that on your list too if you want. I know I was done. I knew that there was nothing I could think of that was going to fix this. Nothing. Because it wasn't just alcohol. Alcohol isn't really my problem. I am my problem. And it was actually written in my mirror for 2 years. You are looking at the problem, Johanna. just to remind myself. And it's not about making myself feel bad or worthless. It's just like acknowledging that the only one who can do something about me is me. But I need help. And a doorknob is not going to help me. Or a new boyfriend or girlfriend, not going to help me, you know. I actually heard a woman from Texas once said, I'd like to see the dick that could get me sober. It's not going to happen. I'm just like, why did I invite her? First came Pat, and he's so like, you know, cute and blonde with his nice little suit, and then Johanna, I was like, she said dick. But it's true. I mean, nobody could get me sober. I have never, ever seen a woman stand with a 1-year chip in her hand saying, I would like to thank my boyfriend. You really got me sober. Never. I've heard a lot of people say I'm sober even if I did have a relationship in my first year. I'm not saying keep your pants on. I never say that to anyone because that would be like saying, hey, alcoholic, here's 2 bottles of booze, lock yourself into a room and don't drink. Like throwing an alcoholic into a room full of cute, sexy people and say don't have sex is ridiculous. It's gonna happen. I say take responsibility for it and don't sleep with a newcomer because then I won't sponsor you. Okay. 2, something else. It's not a doorknob. It's not the, you know, it's something else. So I decided that thing was going to be AAA, and I dove right into it. I got a paper bag with 10 big books and business cards. And I took the bus up in Norrbotten. It's a region very far up north where I used to live, where I got sober. And I would take the bus 2 hours to go to a meeting because I heard there was a woman there who needed my help. And I hadn't really finished my step work yet, but I was ready to help. Johanna to the rescue. And my sponsor, my first sponsor, Linda, God bless her, she's no longer with us. She left the program and passed away. She came home to my house 3 days a week, and we went through the steps, and we did the highlighting, and we talked, and we talked, and we talked, and I did my inventory in 3 days. There's no point in waiting. I went down on my knees. It took me a while. It took me a very long time, because I am a self-proclaimed working class hero, anarchist who is not going to bend down to anyone. And that was a real struggle for me. That was very real to me. That I'm not going to bend in front of the man. But I did, and there was people involved in this third step in Stockholm, in Oslo, in Gothenburg, like sponsor, like what are we going to do with Johanna? She doesn't want to bend down on her knees. Until this woman in a meeting came up to me, she said, I'm pretty sure you've been bending down for worse things than that, Johanna. I'm pretty sure you've been going down on your knees for worse things than prayer, Johanna. And I'm like, she's right. So I went down on my knees and I said, okay, I surrender. You know, and I wasn't like an instant, this feels so good, I'm so free. My voices didn't stop. I mean, they're still there. The committee, you know, I just have ways to shut it up. So I did my inventory because I wasn't going to wait to go to the doctor when I was well. I wanted to get well now. And there's these like urban myths in AA that people relapse when they do their 4th step. They don't. You don't relapse when you do the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. You relapse because you don't give up and because you don't ask for help and you don't do your step work. It was so painful that I relapsed. No, I don't believe in that at all. You relapse because you're sick, because you're an alcoholic. The program is never going to kill us. The steps are. Hello, Freud. How you doing? Okay, I'm going to say that again just so that nobody she said that the steps are going to kill me. The program, the solution, AA is never going to kill us. Alcoholism is going to kill me if I don't open up to the solution, if I don't ask for help, if I don't go to a power greater than me and it's not a doorknob or a new boyfriend. It's God. When you have an understanding of God, And before that, it can be AA. Just don't make it your sponsor, because it's never good to have your sponsor as a higher power. So 5th step, it was pretty, we did it in one day. It was pretty big. My resentment list was a mile long. I hated everyone, including, the woman 15 years ago that said my shoes were dirty. I was just so angry. And it was awful to tell my sponsor how angry I was. My sex inventory was very painful. That was the hardest. To see how I had hurt people and how terribly I had hurt myself. There were some things on my inventory that I didn't take with my sponsor. I chose to take with a psychiatrist and a priest. Because I'm an alcoholic. My sponsor is an alcoholic. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a grieving counselor. I'm not a financial expert. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lot of things. I'm an alcoholic, and I should stick with that. So any other issues are actually outside issues for a reason, because if we make, let's say, antidepressants our issue, then we're going to start killing people at the doorsteps of our meetings. Step 6 and 7, I had a hard time with that. And when I went to step 6 and 7 meetings, people were like, well, they're good steps. Don't really know a lot about them. And I'm like, how the fuck do people get on to step 8 if they don't know anything about step 6 and 7? So I started calling people, because it's just like 2 lines in the big book. And then I found 12 and 12. I'm like, oh, why didn't anyone tell me? But they didn't tell me about the big book, so they weren't going to tell me about 12 and 12. But I did find, and I found it very useful. Me and my sponsor, we would read in that and like to go to in-depth, like how is it, how much pain do I need to be willing to change? So the first thing that happens to me, I by now had 2 kids, and I was going to take my son to daycare center. There was this bitch there. She obviously hated me. I could just tell, like she was walking like 100 meters away. I just knew she hated me. It was like, I have no sense of reality. And I had just handed over my 5th step and done the prayers and handed over to God of my understanding. And the day after, I was just angry. I was just angry all the time. Like all the time, and especially at this freaking woman at my son's daycare center. And I went home and I called my sponsor and said, I was so angry, I think I could kill someone or drink. And she said, oh, welcome to step 6. And then I was like, oh, so God is showing me, what do I work with first? I work with my anger. So I had to call her and say, I'm sorry, I behaved. I wish I could promise you that I would be different. I can't, because I wasn't in step 8 or 9 yet, and I definitely wasn't in step 7, So I didn't promise her, but I had to take immediate action to prepare myself for step 8 and 9. So I called her and she was like, okay, no, it's cool. So in my world, it was like this big feud. And she hated me, and I was the only thing she could think about. But it was just all in my head. And I hated this woman so much, it made me cry. Like, it just took everything that was good about that day away from me. So I started working on my anger. I started writing down, in what situations do I get angry, and it was every situation. Anything can trigger me, and it still can. It's funny because on Facebook, when there's a little search box, and it says people, places, and things. Have you seen that on Facebook? It must have been an alcoholic who wrote that. You look for people, places, and things, which are my triggers. People, places, and things. It's fantastic. Anyway, step 4 and 5 are preparations for step 8 and 9, the way I see it. Because in step 4 and 5, it's my theory about who I am, right? I'm selfish, and so on. And it's also a little my sponsor's theory about who I am, because when I do the 5th step, she helped me, No, you probably, it's not, a validated resentment to hate the woman at the grocery store who she gave you 1 krona too little. Maybe you had some part in that. She just helped me to see my part, but it's still her theory. So step 8 and 9, I take the people I have on my list from step 4 and I just take them over to step 8 and then we go through them. And I had to make amends to everyone. Everyone. Even people that obviously had hurt me. And I'm talking about drug dealers that I owed money, that no sane person probably should go visit, and I don't recommend my sponsees do it either. I brought 2 really big people with me, and I went to pay back some money to a drug dealer that I knew that I was going to run into, and I didn't want that hanging over my head, because I wanted to live a new life. I made amends to people that have really hurt me. I've said, I've made amends for the things I've done. I stopped saying I'm sorry, because I've said I'm sorry so many times in my life that people stop caring, they stop counting, and they stop listening. So I say, I was wrong, and I want to take responsibility for it. Sorry doesn't really have there's no action in sorry. What can I do to make it up to you? Is there any way I can make amends to you? And I had some crazy ideas on how people want me to make amends to them, but I've done it. I painted someone's house, which is I totally messed that house up. But she asked me, so, oh, poor Granny. No, it wasn't Granny. There's only one person I haven't made amends to, and that's my mother. She's still an active alcoholic. There's really no way of talking to someone who is, just like you. She has my DNA, and she's crazier than I am because she has been drinking for 12 more years. I've made attempts, and I'm definitely ready to make amends to her if she would, walk into this room, or I hope she does. I hope I get to make amends to her before she drinks herself to death, which she will eventually. So yeah, I only have good stories with amends. I've never, there was this one guy who hung up. And the other ones really couldn't get hold of, but my sponsors said they're avoiding me. They don't want to talk to you, Johanna. They moved on. It's just that we don't move on because we need to clean up first. Normies, whatever that is, they don't need to clean up. And when I had started doing my amends, I called my friend who is a complete normie. This woman is so healthy, it's provocative. And I was just I made amends, and I'm sorry, and I'm it's just so great. And she was okay. What do you want? A red mat? This is what people do. They fuck up and then they say they're sorry. And you think it's a carnival happening? And it was so hurtful because I thought that I had done something really, really big, but she just took me down to earth and she said, what you're doing is learning how to be a decent human being. We all do that every day. Nobody's throwing me a parade and you're not going to get one. It's good to have people like that in your life. Because sometimes I think I'm the shit. And I'm not. 10, 11, 12. I immediately admit when I'm wrong. I do. Oh, it's so funny. I hate being wrong. I will slam a door in your face before I admit I'm wrong. I'm not one of those success AA stories where she did her steps and now she's Mother Teresa sponsoring 1 million women and she's just a fucking saint. I'm just not one of them. I'm one of those this is a slow process kind of a thing where you learn the more you're sober and the more you do step work. And I learn really, really slow. For me, step 6 and 7 is still very present in my life. Because I still have to be in a lot of pain around some things to change. There's just, some things that I don't give up. I hold on to them. And a lot of them has to do with relationships. A lot of them. Claw marks. Me. Don't give up. But then when it's painful enough, I will admit that I'm wrong. And I still find it one of the most beautiful things in recovery to go to someone and say, I was wrong. I was completely wrong, out of hand, whatever it is that I was doing. Because I find it so there's so much growth in that, not only for me, but also for the person that I apologize to. I once went to Skansen in Stockholm. It's kind of a park where they have animals, and they had a reindeer there. And there's people on my father's side that own reindeers. And the reindeer was in pain. And I took it out on the person working at Skansen in a really terrible way. It was just like, but I had the right to. And I was angry for a very, very long time. And I would send emails and just take that person's name and just like drag it in mud and make his life pretty miserable. And then I had to go and apologize, because I didn't tell my sponsor that I did this. No. I told my sponsor at a later time, and my sponsor wasn't too happy to hear that this had been going on. So I had to go to Skansen and apologize to the whole staff group in public, apologized. And it was mortifying. But it was also very freeing, because afterwards they would come and like, oh, you're the crazy reindeer woman. We've heard about you. You're the one sending emails, threatening to free the reindeer. Like, yeah, that was me. But I try, and I find that the key to growth in AA is through my sponsees. So whenever I think I have a problem, and whenever I think I'm in pain, which happens, people pass away and relationships end, and whenever that happens, some of my sponsees are definitely going to call me and have something even bigger. And once I get over the fact that they always have something bigger than me, then I'm like, okay, I don't need to focus on my stuff. I can just focus on their stuff. I can just help them for a minute or a day or whatever. And it just makes me stop trying to analyze things and stop trying to fix things or think things through, which is like red flags. Whenever I start trying to think my way out of stuff or think things through, because it's not a thinking program, right? I'm sure you've all heard that. It's not a thinking program. It's not a program for analysis. It's not a feeling. I don't care how you feel. Stop talking about how you feel. It's a program of action, right? Spiritual action. So to learn to do things differently. So I can still be angry about how the world looks. I still am angry about the world, how the world looks. But I don't have to hurt myself in the process. I don't have to go home and take that anger with me. I can do things, I can be productive, I can be creative, I can be a part of things. A friend of mine always says, I'm so jealous of, instead of a part of. I'm so jealous of everyone's creative, happy, sexy, fun lives, instead of trying to be a part of that life and learn and look at others and do what they do and have a great life. And I do have a great life. But my sponsees are very important to me. I sponsor a lot of women, simply because a lot of them has a lot of time, so they don't call me every day. They're not so high maintenance, because honestly, I couldn't do it. I believe that women should sponsor women and men should sponsor men. Saying that, I have a male sponsor. I'm so full of contradictions. It's awesome. He is also very openly gay and has been married to the same man for 25 years. So he's not gonna, take advantage of me. But I think it's a good idea to have, especially if you're new. And I also tell men in AA, they go and offer their sponsored services to women to back off all the way out to the room and give the women a chance. There's no reason to have a male sponsor in Sweden these days, because there's so many sober women around. There's also situations where I actually do sponsor two men, but they have very valid reasons to be sponsored by a woman. But I think generally you should stick with the women when you're a woman. And with the winners and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, step 12. Step 1 is the key, and step 12 is, the thing that keeps the door open. If we don't give what has been freely given to us, then not only am I not going to stay sober, but people are going to stop coming. And that would make this ankdam, you know that word? Like you all sit in the same little pond and talk to each other year by year, every day, you know, the same people. Because I've been in meetings where I hear the same shares, like for the 45th time. Because it's only us there, and that means that we are not doing a 12-step work properly in that group. We need to get new people in. And then up north, we do it the old-fashioned way. We go to the drunks and the benches, like where I used to live. And we say, do you want to get sober? No. Well, do you want some coffee then? And we take them to a meeting, and when they give them coffee, then we offer them an opportunity to sit with us in the meeting and listen after we've given them coffee and cake. And, you know, that's how you did it back in the days. In Stockholm, it's a bit different. Stockholm is spoiled. We have so many meetings there, so people can sit and, like, complain about how other meetings do their stuff work. Whoa. And it just, like, still, like, gets to me, like, how? If we did that up north, we would be dead. If I would sit in a meeting up north and complain about how the other, of only 2 meetings, did their step work and trash them, because they work with the 12 and 12. Well, they don't do this, or they we would kill each other. So I tell my sponsees to say when someone asks them, like, how do you do your step work? I say, I do them with God, with the help of my sponsor. I don't get into having opinions about how other people do their step work, because we are drunks and nothing else. We should be all-inclusive, like include everyone and never let anyone feel like they're not a part of this fellowship. Nobody decides who gets to be here. And I think AA in Sweden has a lot of work. I don't see a lot of people of color in the rooms. I don't see almost any people of color in the rooms. There's still more men. I don't see any trans people. I don't see the gay kids coming into, you know, the meetings. There's some cities where there's like special interest meetings. I really don't get that. What's so special about them? They're alcoholics. I'm an alcoholic. I'm not a female alcoholic. Thank you very much. Right, Anders? Anders wanted to write female speaker. I'm like, ugh. I am so tired of being, oh, she's a woman in AA. Really? I've known that for a very long time, that I'm a woman. Men never get called a male AA member, but women get called, you know, the woman in AA, or like the female speaker. I don't think I'm very female, but anyway. I'm an AA member, just as anyone else. But yeah, I don't think I have anything more, do I? Yeah, service, conventions, Europa, European Young People, People's Convention in Rome. First weekend of August. If you don't know what Europa is, it's for people like me who came in very young and stayed, even if I wasn't sober the whole time, but I stayed, or people that have room to grow in their sobriety or just feel very young. And there's a yearly convention there every year that we started in Stockholm, and I've personally done service for a very long time, and I think you all should come to that convention. And if you don't go to that convention, I think you should go to your hometown and start a convention, just like Anders and you guys did now. It doesn't really take much. All we need is coffee and chairs, really, right? I think it's a good idea to have English-speaking conventions, even if I'm more comfortable speaking in Swedish, of course, because it's my native tongue. But especially in Malmö, you know, because we have all Danes on the other side. And they put up an international conference every year, so I think Malmö should too, to say thank you, if nothing else. It's important to be of service to the thing that saved my life. Anything else would be rude, I think. I didn't come to AA to be a wallflower and start dating successfully or like have good coffee. I came here because I was dying. And I think that it says so that we are responsible, and I am a part of us. I am responsible to be there if anyone needs help, and we need coffee makers for that. We need GSRs for that. We need cleaners, you know, after the meeting for that. And we need conferences where we can see each other, so we don't end up in a little duck pond in Malmö or in Stockholm where we only see each other. if it wasn't for AA, I would probably not leave the city limits. I travel a lot, and I see my sober friends in almost every continent of the world. And I couldn't do that if I was drinking, because they would probably I'd probably die before I even reached England. I don't know, which incidentally didn't let me in for a lot of years. But they do now because I'm sober. The States is like, nope, can't do that. And I don't even have knuckle tattoos. I don't know what's their problem, but maybe I'll be let in eventually. So yeah, thank you, Anders, for inviting me, even if you know me and know how my mouth can be sometimes. And thank you for everyone who made coffee and baked the delicious cupcakes, and to everyone who came and set up chairs, and to Jonas and Freya for speaking, and to you, Per, for being a superstar all the way from Stockholm. It was really great to be here, and I'm really glad to see so many people here, so thank you.